session. So we will be giving a short intro of you, Karen, and after that, the stage is all yours. Hope you are enjoying the sessions.
Yes, welcome on stage Karen Levy. Karen Levy is a transformative leadership coach blending brain science, mind science, and action science to unlock leaders' potential. With a psychology degree, an MBA, and an advanced diploma in neuroscience of leadership, Karen creates tailored pathways for leaders using her expertise. She is known for her dynamic enthusiasm and practical applications of cutting edge research in the workplace, earning her the title of the Sassy Lady. Wonderful. Yes, thank you so much, Karen Levy. You can start the presentation. The stage is all yours. Good afternoon.
Okay, thank you, ladies. As I said, good morning, good morning. Um, I assume you can see the slides. All things are fantastic. Leadership is really exciting. It just doesn't come naturally to us like learning to walk, and it takes effort, energy, and enthusiasm for the role. Then when we add this other dimension of pressure, deadlines, and moving goalposts, sometimes we can find ourselves in a spin and we get dizzy and we can't find our ways out of it. Did you know that your brain has superpowers to be molded and melded through neuroplasticity? And that's being able to learn, to think differently, to behave differently, all of these things that come together. Imagine that we can realize our best selves and as we unwrap it to reveal our inner core strengths. And we are capable of so much more than we think. The 7-step process I will introduce you to will prepare you to take this journey towards excellence, particularly when performing under pressure and when you are expected to perform. Something I think that is really important to realize is that you choose to thrive or not. Remember that we are the sum of every decision we've made, every action we've taken. We have made ourselves based on that. I think there's a few things that can stop us from getting on with things, and I see 3 key challenges. The one is work-life balance. Now, there's no absolute about how much work you should do or should not do. If we believe our mental drudges and burdens are taking us and dragging us into the doldrums, we become stressed and then we take a wrong turn and we're on this highway to burnout. Finding our balance, our harmony is so essential for us to finding our pizzazz. Without it, we put another stressor on ourselves. The second one is the imposter syndrome. Researchers found that 75% of women executives experience imposter syndrome, and this concept was first identified way back in 1978. KPMG recently did a study, and they in 2020, and they found that the number's the same. 75% of women executive leaders are still suffering with imposter syndrome. Now, imposter syndrome causes you to have automatic negative thoughts, and you're getting that cycle again of the negative feelings and the thoughts. And getting out of this really does take your energy and your effort to make sure you stop going into that zone. The third challenge is this pressure to succeed. In that same report, KPMG found that 81% of women believe that they put more pressure on themselves to not fail than men do. So they hold themselves to a higher standard. And looking back at the history and everything else that's happened, one of the reasons is that effectively a woman's potential is often seen as lower than a man's when it comes to leadership. And this is despite performances of excellence. If we are ambitious in our careers and we want to push to exceed expectations all the time, and many of us do that. We're truly capable. We have to prove we are truly capable, and this can be really difficult, particularly in male-dominated industries, and the women may have no role models around them. So this take a lot of energy and effort as well, and puts stress on women in leadership. I want to share an overview of how our mindset drives us. If you have a look here, this is a table I want to explain to you. So what we think, our mindset pushes our performance and the result that comes out of it. The first one is about if we feel lost in what we're doing, what we need to do, our performance is basically absent. It's just not happening, and the result is going to be very poor. If we are confused and everything's chaotic around us, then what's going to happen is that the performance will be up and down, but not great. It's just never going to be excellent. Things start to turn when we become engaged in what we're doing, and we know where we're going, and we're feeling like we're part of something. And then you have that moderate performance, and that results in much better. And then there are some people who start to become much more proactive. They start to lead on the front foot, and they elevate their performance. Everything is getting so much better. But to me, the pinnacle is that when we are expansive in our thinking, when we see everything as possibilities, when we realize that polarized thinking isn't helpful, that it's not always just a plain yes or a plain no, and there are other ways of getting through things, then our performance becomes robust. Everything becomes so much better than, and that is where I want us to be as women in leadership, and getting others and drawing them into that whole possibility of expansiveness. We all progress, and we move along towards achievement and accomplishment. And this is the 7 steps I want to share with you to just thrive under pressure. So let's just begin here. First up, the first one is to prepare for excellence. The second one is to frame your game. The third one is scaffold support. The fourth is turn pressure into power. Then you leverage your personal rhythm, accelerate concentration, and then very importantly, reflect and reset. Now, we're going to have a bit of fun with this, I hope. We're going to run a quiz. Well, it's going to be like a quiz. And I want you to have, if you've got a pen and paper, that would be fantastic. What I'm going to do is give each of those steps, and then you can decide whether you're a yes or a no for that particular step and how well you're doing. I also want to say that if it's a sometimes, it's a no. So it's either, we're going with full in here. If it's a yes, put yes down, and then we'll see how your tally comes. So the first one, as we know, is to prepare for excellence. And the idea is I prepare myself for excellence. And there are 3 concepts within this. The first one is body budget. And your body budget is like a bank account. And with a bank account, you have to make deposits, and then you can have withdrawals. And we know with the bank account, if we withdraw too often, we're in debt. The same thing occurs with our body budget. If we withdraw all our energy and effort all the time, and we're not giving back any of it, then we go into debt. What do we need? We need between 7 to 9 hours of sleep every single night. That is what we require. And along with that is good nutrition, making sure it's not too much in the fatty foods and all of that. So just a variety of nutrition is good for you. The second one is routines. Now, routines reduce our cognitive load, and our brains love that because they like to work on auto mode. And when they're working on auto mode, they're using very little brain energy. And that saves you having great energy for that day, that if you're having a tough day, that will give you a good start to your day if you have a whole set of routines that you follow one after the other after the other. And the third part I think is really important are rituals. So rituals are really much more symbolic. They have a lot more maybe of an emotional connection to us. But when you are going to have an extremely tough day, I think rituals are so important. And for me, I know that getting outside and just enjoying, even if it's a cold, windy day, just 5 or 10 minutes helps set me up beautifully for that day. Just connects me. So, everybody here, I have a question. Do you prepare yourself for excellence every day by ensuring you don't overwhelm your body budget? You have that sleep of 7 to 9 hours. You're eating an excellent diet. You have those basic routines set up for yourself, so you go through the morning getting prepared and ready, and you have some great rituals that elevate you even further. So, is that a yes or a no? And remember, sometimes is a no. Okay, so if you've marked your sheet, that would be great. The next one I'm going to look at is the frame the game. I frame my game to set myself up for success. So the first one I want to look at is the growth mindset. And in a way, it's believing that you do have that neuroplasticity, that idea that you can learn to do things differently, to think differently, to feel differently. And I want to just step into this a little bit more and just to realize that we can learn at any age. I know that if you do something again and again, and it's not one of the best things that you do, and it might be a bad habit, and you want to change that, well, getting out of that, you can do it. But if the pathway is wide and deep in your brain, it takes a lot of effort and time to change those pathways into new ones. But what's really also very exciting is the concept of there is neurogenesis, which means we create more brain cells. And these brain cells, when they become mature, they're ready to make new pathways for you. So hence the whole concept of neuroplasticity, etc., is something we have to embrace and realize that it is possible, even though sometimes it can be tough. The other one I think is very important when we frame our game is our boundaries. You may think it's strange, but boundaries give us freedom. Your brain loves certainty. So when you've got boundaries and you know how far you can go or want to go or what you need to do, it really does let it all happen for you. You become less stressed when you know your boundaries because of that level of certainty. And the third one is, I think, unbelievably important, and that's languaging. I don't know, this is really how we speak to ourselves, and it has a major impact. And I'm not certain if anybody's ever heard of the Florida effect. They took young medical students, and what they did is they had 5 words in 5 different rooms on tables, and then they had to go into a room, read the 5 words, and string it into a sentence. Pretty simple. What was really interesting, though, was that in the one room, there were a lot of words associated with retirement, like bungalow, all of those things. And everybody read those words, and when they strung them out into a sentence, when they left the room, they walked a lot more slowly. And that's what I want you to understand. Your language primes yourself. This is really metacognition. You're thinking about thinking. And I cannot emphasize enough how important our language is when we speak to ourselves and others effectively, really. So the big question here for the tally: do you always frame your game to set yourself up for success every day? Do you recognize that what you do and think and learn from others can be helpful, as well as setting up yourself boundaries and speaking to yourself in ways that promote a positive and readiness attitude. Yes or no? Okay, and remember that sometimes is a no. We'll move into the third question here, and this is about scaffold support. I have put support systems into place that nurture me. And the first one is really family, friends, and peers. And this is ensuring that you have this tribe of people around you that are supportive, they're positive with you, and you have deep, meaningful connection. If you've created a circle of trust, it means that they give you energy and they don't suck your energy out, putting you into that deficit of your body budget. The other one is nurture. And I just really wanted to mention nurture because I've asked that tribe to help you. You need to help them. It's a bi-directional, two-way path between you and them. It's about creating a state of trust, and that has to come both ways. And the third aspect, I think, in terms of scaffolding support is having mentoring and coaching. And I think particularly in women who are creating pathways in their careers that are different or a little bit new for those industries, having a mentor and a coach makes a difference. It helps you think about things differently, supports you, focuses on your inner strengths when you need to, and it also gives you accountability when you're trying to do new things. So the third question I have here for you is, have you set up a support system that really is a fabulous tribe of people nurturing you with mentors and coaches as well? Yes or no? All right. The fourth one is to turn pressure into power. And I think this is a real good dynamic for all of us. So the three things I've got here, the first one is to prioritize. When we've got a lot going on in our lives or at work, if we can't keep a handle on it, we go straight into overwhelm, and we know that may get that sort of dizziness, as I mentioned before. And we fall into the state of frazzle. And that leads to cognitive overload. And when you're in cognitive overload, your prefrontal cortex, which is the executive part of your thinking, is unable to function at its peak. And I want you to really, really realize that. So making sure that what is critical and important is top of the list, you've set it up, and it also gives you that level of certainty, which your brain really does love. The other one is to shift perspective. When we're working in a volatile environment and things are happening around us, we sometimes forget that there are some things that are outside of our control. And we need to realize that and step away from that. And we focus on what is in our control. That is very important. When we're trying to do things that are outside our control, we're going back into that frazzle state and eventually burnout. And the third part of turning your pressure into power is making sure that you adapt. And I know I've mentioned the boundaries and we love certainty, but what you can do and what is important is that you can choose to make those changes. And when you've decided that that is a choice for you to make, your brain is okay with that. It allows you to do it. And that's it's a very powerful mechanism for you. So rather than feeling you're changing without thought, it's to step back. Do I need to make those changes? What changes should I make? And that will give your brain a level of less stress. My big question here then is this: are you able to turn pressure into power? You prioritize your day. You shift that perspective and realize what's in your control, and you adapt when necessary. The answer is yes or no, and sometimes is a no. The fifth one I have is leverage personal rhythm. I leverage my personal rhythms to make the most of my day. And the three core things I've got here is looking at that idea of early versus late. And this is looking at our chronotype. There are some people who love the early mornings and the others who think it's the worst thing ever. And where you sit depends on your chronotype. It's who you are. Now, I know in this day and age, there's often we have to work in ways that don't always go with our personal rhythms. But when it comes to cognitive work and heavy duty thinking and maybe big meetings and things, if you can try and do it around your own personal, should I be early in the morning, first thing in the morning or later on? Most of us do sit in the morning zone, though there are some extremes, and you may have heard of the idea of owls and larks. And I have met a few owls who like to go to bed at 1, 2 a.m. and get up at 10 a.m. in the morning. But when it comes to normal everyday work, that's a very difficult way to manage your life and tricky for them. The second one is ultradian cycles. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's basically biological patterns that are hardwired into our DNA. And they oscillate up and down in 90-minute lots. So we cycle through. In fact, it's very similar in the timing, because when we sleep, we have 90-minute cycles as well. But what I want you to understand that we can, when you've got a lot of thinking to do, a lot of cognitive work to do, working within your ultradian cycle makes a lot of good sense. The good news is that rhythms, that cycle starts when you do. So when you decide to start work, that's when the 90-minute cycle stops. When we try and push through that 90 minutes and think, I'm going to just keep going, you go into the foggy, groggy state. And you start thinking about caffeine and sugary supplements. And that is when, if you take the break, and we should be taking a good solid break after the 90-minute cycles, you are in a much better place. And in fact, they found that you can do a lot more productive work if you go with your ultradian cycles. And the third one is basically maintaining your motivation and momentum. And we already know that motivation is getting us started. Momentum is keeping us going through the day. And we may know that we've got this prioritized list and we're getting all ready and we have all that motivation, but we need to keep it on. And we get distracted and things happen. And sorry, I can hear you, Melinda. And
continue, please.
okay. So writing what I call, they're called to-do lists. And a to-do list is writing something as you've completed it. So you can look and see what you've done. And I like the idea of ta-da. So it keeps your momentum and you get that little ready to carry on, that dopamine hit, which a lot of you've probably heard of, and that's that fuzzy positive feeling. So my question is, do you leverage your personal rhythm with your chronotype? Use those ultradian cycles and make sure you have your motivation and momentum. And that's a yes or a no. The sixth one I have is the accelerate concentration. I have techniques I use when I need to accelerate my concentration. The first one is the brain-body connection. And this is a relatively new area of research. It's called SCAN, Somato for body, cognitive for mind, and an action network. And it's a newly discovered brain network that there is a link between your body and mind that's actually embedded into the brain structure. So realizing that what's going on in your brain affects your body, and what's going on in your body affects your brain. So if you're starting to slump, your brain is slowing down. And if you want to try and perk yourself up, you do have to sit up and make it happen. The next one is hydration. I don't know, but even mild hydration does affect our brain power. It can cause brain fog and fatigue. And the guy is a guy called Jim Quick, and he's a leading brain coach. And he says your thinking speed increases between 15 and 30% when we are well hydrated. The third one is movement. And there's been a lot of talk that sitting is the new smoking. So getting up and moving, and even within your ultradian cycles, if you have a break at 25 minutes and then another, just a short one, or stretching or anything, but just sitting still all the time doesn't do you any favors in terms of your thinking and your body movements. My question then to you for this our little quiz is, do you ensure you accelerate your concentration, particularly on pressure-filled days, while working with your brain and body, having enough water and moving? Is that a yes or a no? Sometimes leads you into a no. Okay, so the final one is reflect and reset. I set time aside to reflect and boost my own energy levels and thinking processes. This is one of the most critical things. And the first one is to celebrate what we've done. And those to-do lists I told you about, those are really a great way to look back at the end of the day and go, yes. If we don't celebrate the small things as well as the big things, we kind of feel we're on this never-ending cycle and there's no finish line in sight. So this gives us a sense of worth, and it diminishes any stress we may have because we feel we're just going. The second one is appraising your what you've done, and that's looking back and checking what you've done. And it's using that concept of the growth mindset, the neuroplasticity, and think about, well, I did it this way. Is there a different way? Can I do it differently? And that increases our capacity to find alternatives, particularly when we're under the pump and everything's coming at us. And the third one is decompress. And again, there's a new concept called neuroaesthetics or neuroarts. And this field emerged in the 1990s, and it helps to enrich our brains. And one of the things, because we're doing that kind of neuroarts thing, it makes us feel safe and secure. So it's the idea of nature, getting outside, smelling the flowers if you've got them in your house, or doing drawing or dancing, or visiting art galleries, going to see plays. It's all about just enjoying and decompressing. But for me, it's really important that you're not always using technology, that you're stepping away from that. The other thing is, it has been shown that if you don't give yourself time to decompress and you're always under stress, your hippocampus, which is the sort of the memory space in your brain, starts to shrink, and that impairs your memory, and you start to forget things and you can't remember. So making sure you have time out every day to decompress is essential. So my question here to you is, do you always set time aside to reflect and reset? Importantly, celebrate what you achieved, appraise and learn from that, and then really, really take self-care and time out to decompress. Yes or no? Okay, so we've had a look at those 7 steps. I would love to know if anybody wants to share their tally, and that's how many yeses you got. I don't know if anybody has done any of those quizzes, and if you have, I would love to know if you've got an answer at all. We're coming back to the end of the session, but I do also want to say that looking at those 7 steps, decide on which is your priority and which is the one you would get the biggest gains from. The other thing is, if you're interested, I do have a document I would like to share with you. There is a QR code on there. If you want to, you can just do that, and the PDF will download automatically. So if you want to just take a photograph of the QR code, please do. And I'm going to assume that was long enough to do that. I just want to leave you with this, is that you do choose to thrive. And it's so, how are you going to make sure you move forward doing this? If anybody wants to connect with me, that would be absolutely lovely. My favorite space is probably LinkedIn. I want to say thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and handing over really to Melinda and her team. If there are any questions or anything else, just let me know. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you. Your topic of fostering women leadership excellence and that 7 steps were very clear. I know these days it's very important to handle the pressure. I think you covered the key points and insights for that. Thank you so much. And I think Melinda has a question for you from audience.
Okay,
Yes,
thanks.
Karen. Yes, Karen. We do have a question for you from our audience. How can organizations support women leaders in maintaining their well-being and managing the demands of leadership roles?
Yeah, I think a lot of that goes to that decompression, the mentoring and coaching. One of the important things we need to do is find somebody who we can speak to that doesn't judge us and just supports us, because sometimes we just need to talk things through. And when we talk things through with somebody, they give us a new perspective by asking us good questions. So I think when we're up and we're trying to get through the leadership ranks, is looking for a good network, and as I said, a tribe that is there for you. And along with that, taking really good self-care. I can't emphasize self-care enough, and for people to realize that it's not selfish, it's selfless. One of the things to remember, that if we're not looking after ourselves and taking that time out, we have nothing left in our body budget to support people we love, to support our team, to be there for others. So that's decompression is probably a critical element in managing yourself through your leadership journey. Anything else?
No, very well answered, Karen. Thank you so much for your valuable time. I hope you enjoyed the session. If you, I think Karen has posted her QR code, so please reach out to her. Please reach out to her. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Thank
much,
you.
Karen.
All
Please
right. Thank you
join
very
our
much.
next.
Yeah,
Okay.
we wish you a
Bye.
wonderful day. Thank you.
Please join our next speaker and Billy. Thank you. Bye, Karen.
Bye.